Hey everyone, it's Monica. Welcome back to Because Jesus Bible Journaling. And today I am continuing my long, slow, steady journey through the book of Psalms, trying to journal every page of the book of Psalms in this journaling Bible in particular. And today, did I actually sew in my journaling Bible? The answer is yes and also no. So keep watching if you want to see a sewing machine in action, and then also some ways that I decided to not go with the sewing machine. So today I had these two scraps of paper. I had a stripy one with some bright colors, and then I also had that tie-dye piece of paper, and I wanted to use one of those in the margin and just add some more color over here. I'm working in Psalm 78 today. Really interesting chapter, just a lot about how poorly the people treated the Lord, and they certainly didn't deserve his grace and his mercy. Yet, throughout this chapter, there are these phrases about the Lord remembering us, the Lord leading us, and the Lord guiding us. He's so faithful to us, even when we just deserve nothing more than his frustration. So I'm doing some quick measurements here because I want to trim those colorful papers down to size. It's going to be 5.5 centimeters wide and 18 centimeters tall. And that's just what I went with for the size that I was looking for. And then I'm trying to make this decision. I thought for sure I would use the tie-dye, but as I was comparing the colors with the colors across the way, I went ahead with this stripy page, which was just some leftover acrylic paint from one of my recent Bible journaling adventures. And I'm so glad that I used the leftover paint up on this scrap of paper because I knew I would eventually use it. So I'm doing some measurements here. I felt like today I was just kind of failing at everything I tried, at least the first time. And so I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but I'm just trying to transfer those dimensions to this piece of paper and have it all end up on the parts of the paper that have the colored paint on them. So I'm cutting away all of the white that is not needed, and I just wanted this to be a rectangular rainbow of fun, bright colors and speckles to work on today. And so I'm cutting away the margin and trying to get down to those dimensions that I had measured in my Bible. And I really wanted to preserve that bright blue patch of color at the bottom there. So then I just figured out which way I wanted it to go, and I decided pink at the top, blue at the bottom seemed to make sense in my head for whatever reason. And then again, I'm going to get into this process here, and I just couldn't figure out a good way to do this. I'm trying to plan out this layout of layering vellum onto this piece of paper, and I'm planning to go ahead and sew on the vellum to this slightly thicker piece of paper. But I was trying to figure out, how do I get pieces of vellum that are nice and straight but also the right size for this paper and have the layout that I'm going to look for. So I used this embroidery tool, and I taped the colored paper on the back and I taped the vellum on the front, and then just began sketching out some rectangles. I am very confident there's an easier way to do this, but again, this day, I don't know what was going on with me, if I was extra tired or what, but it seemed like everything just took an extra step and some extra thought. Long story short, no matter what the method, I did end up with some rectangles, and I added some hearts inside some of them, and then added these phrases, he remembers us, he leads us, he guides us, inside some of the others. And then this is one of those times that it is okay to use a Sharpie pen. I never use Sharpie in my Bible because it does bleed through, but I do use it when I'm working on vellum or other paper that can take it. So filling in all these hearts with the black Sharpie, filling in all those letters with the black Sharpie, and then going ahead and cutting these shapes out and preparing them to be added onto that colorful page. At the end of the day, this was such a fun process, but also really long. I think I worked on this page for like an hour and a half, and kudos to me for cutting it down to a 10-minute video. But it was really a good time, and I was just thanking the Lord for still loving me when I deserve his frustration. I walk away from him, I ignore him, I don't obey him, and he still loves me. As you can see, it got really bright there for a second. The sun came out, which caused this white line of light to go across the screen here. Nothing I can really do about it, I don't think, in the editing process, but your eyes are not playing a trick on you. It's just the sunshine, which we don't always get to see that often where I live. And that's the basic idea. Now, here comes the sewing machine part. This is me just doing some test runs on that same thick piece of paper, and I've layered some vellum on it. Did some zigzag stitching, trying to figure out what looks best. Definitely did not like the stitching forward and stitching backward to tie off the ends. It got a little bit busy and a little bit layered up, a little bit gobbly at the beginning and at the end if I backstitched at all. So I was trying to figure out, how can I get this to stay put without backstitching at the end of each run that I do. And I decided that actually on the back, what I could do is secure the thread and just forgo any backstitching at all. So here I am just experimenting again with just doing a straight zigzag stitch. I think I have my stitch length at 2.5 and my tension right about in the middle. And I'm thinking this is going to work. So I'm taking a little piece of washi tape and just securing the thread that's on the back, the bobbin thread, and finding that actually, yes, the front thread, once I trim it off, doesn't seem to pull through or anything. If I was sewing a garment, I probably wouldn't use this technique, but because it's just paper and it's going to be in my Bible, I am happy with it. So I grabbed the actual margin art and just sewed forward over each piece of vellum. For some of them, I sewed along the top and the bottom. For some of them, I sewed straight through the center. Others, I sewed along the sides. If they were really little, I just kind of hand stitched them by using that wheel on the right side of the machine. And for others, I just sped it right on through like it was a piece of fabric. And I decided to go ahead and leave the threads long for now so that I could go ahead and untangle them and secure them once all of the sewing is done. So hopefully you can get a look here at how it's coming. I think it looks really cool. It's kind of holding down the edges of the vellum. And I had used a glue stick to hold these vellum pieces in place. So think of that as your pinning step if you are a seamstress, which I am not, in case you couldn't tell. Anyhow, it's about done. I sewed down all the edges that I wanted to, and then here's the back of that piece of margin art. So as you can see, it's kind of a tangled mess right now. It gets better, don't worry. I'm just securing down the back pieces of thread and trimming them off and leaving the front pieces without any tape, but I am just trimming the front pieces off. And this seemed to work really well. Just taping down those strands, trimming them off, and then flipping it over and trimming off the threads that are on the front of it as well. This was just a process, and I was really enjoying my time just listening to worship music, thinking about the Lord, and really being thankful that He doesn't abandon us, that He never leaves us. We're never without His presence. Thank goodness. If you're enjoying this video, something maybe a little bit different, give it a thumbs up as you're watching. That helps my channel so much, and it'll help YouTube recommend these videos to other people who are interested in similar things. And be sure to hit the subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss the upcoming videos that I have for you as well. They're going to be a lot of fun. So this is where I decided to not use the sewing machine. Initially, I was going to actually sew it onto the Bible page, which I'm pretty sure a couple years ago I saw somebody sew something into their journaling Bible. But today, based on the size of the hole that my needle was making in the paper, I just didn't want to do that to the Bible. So I decided to instead use this black washi tape to secure this piece of paper, and then just use my Uniball Signo gel pen to make that similar zigzag style to kind of mimic the stitching, that white thread stitching pattern that's on the paper. This was so much fun, you guys, and I'm so glad that I didn't actually sew in the Bible, but I did sew on the margin art that went into my Bible. I wrote this prayer of thanksgiving, thanking the Lord for not abandoning me, even when I just deserve His frustration. On the back of the page here, nothing to see really. You can see little glimpses of the washi tape there, but that'll be covered up when I get over there to Psalm 79. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please jump over to Facebook. You can find us at Because Jesus Bible Journaling, and I'd love to see pictures of what you are doing. If you decide to go ahead and sew some paper together and place it in your Bible, I would love to see it. Again, I did not sew on the Bible page. I just didn't feel confident about it, and I didn't want to leave those relatively large holes in the Bible. Maybe there's a thinner sewing needle that wouldn't harm it, but I was not feeling comfortable with it today. Jump over to my Etsy store, Because Jesus Bible Art. Again, join us on Facebook and jump into the Word of God for yourself today. It is amazing. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.